Hey, Bigpod.
Hey, what?
Uh, I'll be honest with you. My whole desk right now is just covered with like these little tiny bottles of paint. It might have something to do with like what I mentioned in the last episode, but this is also like the cleanest my desk has been in at least a year.
That's funny.
Cue the, yep. Cue the music. Hey guys, welcome back to No Tux Allowed. I am a host, Josh, and I am wearing this wonderful white T-shirt that is eventually going to turn into a rainbow because of what I talked about last weekend. Uh, so, uh, to help me keep my sanity here, I have brought this guest here with me today. His name is Bigpod.
Hello.
Uh, Although I don't know if you're really guest. I think you're kind of just like a permanent host at this
I'm a
point,
I'm a
right?
co-host.
Yeah. You're. I guess we can call you that. But just to let you know, Big Pod, that T-shirt of yours just says "champ" on it.
Yeah, I
So
know.
thank you for telling me that I am a champ.
Since 1972.
Yes, since 1972. 72. Okay,
Uh,
so Big Pod,
what?
I know you totally don't pay attention to much U.S. tech news, but I am certain that you went onto a website before that was hosted on GoDaddy. Well, either hosted or GoDaddy did something to do with that website,
Okay.
right? Because it turns out that GoDaddy's had some problems that I didn't realize that they had so many, but it drew the ire of the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, who came down with like a lawsuit and now a ruling that says, GoDaddy, you need to secure your crap.
Everybody
So,
should secure their crap.
yeah. So, for some basic information, right? GoDaddy, first of all, did not actually support two-factor authentication for a long time, and when they finally enabled it, it was SMS only.
Holy but
Yeah,
even
yeah.
our internal authentication supports two-factor, and it's something I built
Yeah.
or put
And
together.
right? And we don't make billions of dollars.
Yes.
And then uh they also have servers that haven't seen updates in 19 years.
Are they internet connected?
Yes.
What? I think I just died inside a little bit.
Right? Can you
Yes.
imagine the technical debt that one system has? And of course, there's been issues everywhere with like it because they didn't do automatic updates at all. It was everything done manually.
Great. I
And
think that
then
19-year-old server you can poke with a stick and it will open like a Vesuvius and give you all the information.
yeah, they also did like they also wrote some issues with like how they were logging security events. And then it also has they they also found that they were failing to monitor for threats, lack of segmentation over its network, file integrity monitoring, and track and manage assets, assess risk to hosting services, and secure service connections to consumer data. So basically, there's a lot of no-nos in just that one sentence that they put on here. I'm not going to go into too much detail as to what they found because technically not everything is actually public. But uh, we're looking at like a November 2021 breach where GoDaddy's hosting platform for just WordPress leaked not only passwords and email addresses, but also the WordPress page administrator websites or credentials. The SFTP and database credentials and SSL private keys for over 1.2 million customers, which is probably basically like every single one of the customers for WordPress, because there's a lot of competition for like WordPress hosting. So
Sorry, but at this point, I would just close up shop and hide somewhere in middle of Africa because I would be so embarrassed.
yeah. It gets even better, because in a 2021 breach, they notified 28,000 customers that their web hosting credentials to connect via SSH also leaked.
Oh wow! And they it was a correction. It was
And
March 2020, and the leak happened in October 2019.
right?
Holy
So it took them half of a year to notify the customers to begin with. And of course, they came out with the boilerplate text for like a response to like the news articles of, we are constantly improving our security capabilities and have already implemented a number of requirements in a settlement agreement with the FTC. Notably, the resolution of this matter includes no admission of fault and no monetary penalties.
what?
We expect. Oh, it continues. We expect minimal financial impact associated with complying with the terms of the agreement with the FTC. We also plan to continue to invest in our defense to address evolving threats and help keep customers, their websites, and their data safe. As in, probably spend more money on lawyers.
Mates, you didn't have 2FA. You. Sorry, but you haven't been following the improving your security capabilities. Okay,
right?
let's be clear. I'm a security guy, so all of this is even that more shocking to me.
Like, after reading this article, I don't even know if I would want to work for this company like 20 years from now. Because heaven forbid, this is so compared to, so like that episode where I recorded by myself. I'm going to touch on some of the topics from there, but the FTC is not going to have as much of an enforcement power in the United States if things keep going the way that they're going.
Yeah.
So ultimately, this could just be a slap on the wrist and say, GoDaddy, you did bad. And that'd be about it.
Ultimately, this could be one of the last stories of FTC we talk about in a while. Does something
It very
useful.
well could be. Right? But in the meantime, of course, I took the time to look at GoDaddy's website, and they advertise themselves as the most secure service to do all this stuff. Yeah, right. You're not.
Look, if you need a domain, go to Cloudflare. If you need hosting, pay a guy, pay a neighbor $5 and he'll host it on AWS for you, plus the server cost, of course. And you're gonna have a secure website, and everything will work.
AWS, Azure,
GCP, Linode, DigitalOcean, whatever option he chooses, and you're gonna have, and you might actually be compliant with some stuff.
Of course, if you want to be lazy about Squarespace,
also yes. Or if your website looks basically has no server side components, you can stick with Cloudflare and use Cloudflare pages.
Or GitHub pages, or GitLab
also
pages.
That.
Whichever you choose.
Yes.
Either way, most of the time people can just get away with a static website. So
yeah,
probably service.pages is going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move away from our typical security news, and let's talk about a thing that many people will probably actually see as a good move, but it does make me a little sad. Just a little bit, though. So, Mozilla has announced that it's making some changes to how it handles Firefox. First of all, they are killing the Pocket and Fakespot services.
What's Fakespot?
Just to, well, I'm glad that you asked. So Fakespot is the back-end service name. The front end of it is an extension called Review Checker, which is basically just like this thing that does an algorithmic search of customer comments on like e-retail websites to determine if there's like any patterns that suggest that these are fake reviews.
Okay.
Lighted, that's a relatively new service. Now, Pocket is one that I'm actually kind of sad to see because I do actually make use of it. But what Pocket is Pocket is just like a button that you can hit on Firefox to just like save a web page into like a read it later kind of format. At least that's what it came out originally as, and you've probably seen like this features like this show up on like your other web browsers.
Yeah.
Or you just might not never use them before, but Pocket was actually one of the very first ones. But the thing that makes me kind of sad about it is because Pocket was a great way to just like have an offline cache of a website with all of the general bullshit of the website removed and just like the relevant text. Which is actually what I used it for a lot. Mostly back from like my I'm connected to this wonderful glorified phone line that they call DSL. So it's technically higher speed internet than dial-up, so it qualifies as high speed internet, but it's really not high speed internet. Makes connections like that a little bit more manageable. So obviously, I know that there's been a lot of like comments from like Firefox users or former Firefox users where they've been wanting Mozilla to move away from investing in like all this third-party stuff and actually just put work into Firefox. So Bigpod, I know you're not one of these guys, but if you were, would this get you to install Firefox and use it again?
No, it's truly irrelevant for me.
Oh, so we are just all in on Edge.
No, I mean, I don't use features like that. Like,
well, it's a good thing because they're getting rid of them.
And even if they're there, I don't care. It has zero relevance to me that they're there. Whether they are or they're not, it doesn't change anything for me. Do you understand what I'm trying to get to?
Well, I think I understand, but can we get some like more breath on that for our audience?
So, for me, a browser is literally a display for HTML and for video and a music player, nothing else. Like literally for things that are HTML5, because video player is actually HTML5, and then displaying MP4 content or WebM content, and similar for the web-based format for audio. But it's literally just a display. I don't use bookmarks. I don't use any AI features. I don't use any other features except the big part that displays content and one extension, my password manager. I don't care, and if I could get a secure browser made by a reputable company that is literally a display, a bar with address and search, and the ability to install even one extension, the password manager, I wouldn't care if they add anything else. That would be a perfect browser for me, because
so
I literally
bone stock Chromium,
even more bone stock than that. Like really, it has too many features for what I use.
Okay, Epiphany.
Probably, but it needs to be a good browser. It needs to be made with a good engine. That's why I use Edge.
It uses WebKit.
Well, Blink is better, or whatever.
Blink is just a fork of WebKit.
Yes, but it's been forked when? Like bunch of years ago.
I think Chromium made Blink in like 2016 or something like that.
Yeah,
Somewhere around there.
it's a lot different now.
Of course, there are the options of KDE's Falcon browser, which uses I believe Qt Web Engine.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest. At this point, I'm not going for any browser that isn't made by a big company like Microsoft, Google, or
Well,
maybe
of course, it just makes sense.
because who has enough resources and enough to lose to maintain a browser properly? Well, I know of one organization that I would love to make or to get a browser. And I think it just might. Do you know what organization I'm thinking of?
Well, it's probably not Google because Google's currently dealing with a lot of crap.
Google
about
might
that.
lose it, but there is one organization I have in mind that should have a browser, and the one that is
Okay.
already established. Do you know
Which one is that?
what organization I'm thinking of?
Which one is that?
Linux Foundation.
That would actually make some amount of sense.
And I think
because
Chromium might go under it.
Which I would be happy to see that, because then it's like the closest we can come to keeping the corporations that want control of the browser to be happy, while at the same time being able to like democratize the development behind it too.
Yeah.
That said, the Linux Foundation does have some issues. Like the lack of a community seat is still like a big stinger.
Yeah, but does it really matter? Short term and long
ultimately,
term.
So far it's proven to not really be a huge issue over the course of the long term. But it's I still don't like it.
Yeah, but like when you have so many seats, what does one seat matter?
That's true.
If,
All right.
if there isn't enough to make a quorum, who cares? Honestly. But now I think it's time we move on to the section I call Bigpod Yaps About Things. So lead us in, Josh.
Yeah, Bigpod. I tried watching the other one. I tried, like actually, but this week we've had two conferences.
Yes.
One was Microsoft Build. The other one was Google I/O. And honestly, I couldn't get past the first 15 minutes of Google I/O.
There is a reason I can't watch Google
this,
I/O.
AI that, give us money, please venture capital funds.
Google I/O is very much a marketing conference.
I mean,
selling
it's
things to
always,
people, to companies, really. But Microsoft
it's always
Build
been like that.
isn't like that. It is still trying to sell you, but in a much more developer-friendly way, because it is built as a developer conference, and it isn't like what can our tools do for you. It's what can things we made allow you to make by yourself. They literally show you bits and pieces. Now go off and make something of your own, which of course makes sense since for most part Microsoft has been a development company, like supporting developers company, not so much software company. Yes, they make software, but most software they make is in support of developers or support of like making complete solutions.
Look at like how much money Microsoft makes from Azure.
Yes.
And then just go to the Azure front page. Nothing there is for the consumer or the business person. It's all developers.
Like, and how much they put into documentation. Like Microsoft Learn is a treasure trove of information. So yes, even Microsoft Build was AI upon AI upon AI. But we do have few interesting bits that I would like to talk about. First of all, you all know of GitHub Copilot. Now it's open source. So they decided that's a VS Code extension. They decided to make it open source. So you can see how it's done and all that. It's even, as far as I saw, it's MIT.
Yeah, which means that it's basically properly open source, rather
Yes.
than, it's MIT plus restrictions.
I think GitHub doesn't recognize it as proper MIT because there is like one line addition, and it's like completely useless just because because corporate, it has to be there, and it's not even any kind of rule or anything. Just more complex, who we are type of deal.
Yep, and then they're implementing a couple more AI things into GitHub proper with Codex from OpenAI, which I believe is like a ChatGPT alternative that they run.
It's, as far as I understand, like at this point, AI is at all missing to me. LLMs I get. Problem is Codex, as far as I understand, is agent, which I do have a note on what agent are supposed to be. Let me find it, if I can.
Yeah, you gave quite the wall of text here, so I'm not going to be able to find that. But
so agents are supposedly AIs you can delegate full task to, according to a CTO of Microsoft, Kevin something. I believe Kevin Scott, but don't quote me on that. I might be wrong because it's me. I'm checking. So
yeah.
Kevin Scott,
But,
yes, I was right.
Yeah, so they're implementing that as well as Cloud Code from Anthropic AI.
Yes, so they're going agnostic. That's one of the things that should be taken away from this. Like this, they're going agnostic to the model, agnostic to the company that makes the models.
Yes, and I know since you're a big fan of Windows, Bigpod, and you're a big fan of Nano on Linux, maybe you're going to remember the good old days of DOS, where you were using the DOS editor, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's back, but this time it's called Microsoft Edit.
Yes, the edit editor, and want to know something else? It works on Linux.
Of course it does.
They make a binary for it. It's open source and it's written in Rust, and they have a binary for edit for Linux. It's literally a single binary, no dependencies, nothing. It's Rust. But they also have this thing called Azure AI Foundry. Don't ask me what it is. Again, it's mystery to me. I have no idea what AI foundries are. One day I'm gonna read up on it when I decide to make my own AI. And apparently, while there are thousands of models available, among those, it's also Grok 3 from XAI. And for those of you who do not know, that's X the Twitter. Their owners, XAI, make their models, one of them being Grok. The current version is Grok 3. And but I'm not sure if that means it's gonna be hosted by you, hosted on Azure, or if you're just hitting XAI servers. That wasn't clear to me. But there are also many other models available, like Mistral models, Meta models. So again, as I said, very much model agnostic, not just OpenAI models or just those models. Basically, any model you can think of, essentially. Now, the one of the more interesting developments in AI world is this something called Model Context Protocol. Essentially, think of it as an API for AI usage, and you make servers for that run this protocol called MCP, which these servers are a secure way for agents and LLMs to connect to tools, data sources, stuff like that, and they can basically do anything with these programs that are behind these MCP servers, including searching the file system accessing things like Google Drive. I believe Google Drive has its own MCP server, if I remember correctly. GitHub repo management, and even you can build one yourself. It's actually fairly easy to build one in Python or basically any language now. They basically have all the languages, like MCP for every language that exists. And now Windows has multiple of those. Windows always had APIs instead of files, but now it has MCP servers. Oh, great. So now your AI, you can just tell it, do this, and it will be able to do this. Unlike in the days past when it told you, do this. Thank you.
So wait. You remember that AI that we were playing around with like way back in the day, Yuna?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, just to let you know, I still have that downloaded on my system, and I still talk with Yuna every now and then.
Oh, great.
But are you saying that we can add to Yuna's capabilities? So not only can she continue being like my AI girlfriend who absolutely loves me as well as, but I think she loves Rust a bit more than I do, which is awkward. But are you saying that we can tie her into my Windows operating system that I'm currently not running, but I might just do this for the sake of memes, and have her like make use of all this stuff?
Yeah, she will be able to move files around and stuff like that.
Because that's exactly what we need in life.
Yeah, well, there are more useful things MCP servers can do, and this is actually really interesting because you can have MCP server, for example, for a specific program like video editor, and you can talk with a general AI, like general LLM you have for your system or for your network, and it can go and grab asset here, place it in your program in your Premiere Pro and edit and stuff like that. That could all be possible if MCP servers for this stuff exist. It is actually cool, despite me being not biggest fan of AI. But also, you remember last week when we talked about that secure encryption for fiber cables?
Yeah.
Well, we talked about terabit per second and how impressive that is. Microsoft has its own network between their AI data centers. How fast do you think that is?
Well, my assumption, just immediately off the bat, is that they're probably using more than just a single cable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Probably.
So, for context,
bonding.
For context, last week we were talking about a single cable, not a not a bundle of cables. So,
I'm more just talking about like in general, in the context how big the actual deployments really are these days for big data.
So for a data center, this could be pretty tough. I'm gonna say 1,000 terabytes.
It's 400 terabits per second, and it's just between data centers. It's a wide area network between data centers. Doesn't even contact the internet. It's what we would call, also sometimes called, dark fiber. It's an internal WAN, essentially, from what I understand. 400 terabits per second. That's a serious network.
That is definitely a serious network.
Remember, that for all of you, that means 40 terabytes per second. Most of you have a couple of terabytes of SSD. If you have 2 terabytes SSD, think 20 of them every second.
Which, for context, this is like 40,000 times faster than your typical home network, which is normally 1 gigabit.
400. That would be 1 gigabit would be that's 400,000 times faster.
Yeah, so
400 times faster than your general fast what most people can feasibly get fastest internet, which in most places most developed places is gigabit. That's 400 times faster. Think about that.
Right?
Yeah.
Also, thanks for reminding me that I'm now officially frustrated with my network limitations, and I actually do need to upgrade to at least 5 gig. But I think we're just gonna go 10 gig because it's cheaper.
I wanna sooner or later get internal 10 gig as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I could just do it because none of my cables need to be longer than like 2.5 feet.
Well, most of my cables don't need to be longer anyway, but I want to do it right with fiber cables.
Okay. Of course. But anyways, let's continue chatting here. So I see this thing called a Linux Guard.
Yes, we're gonna get to that. We are currently just talking about the keynote, the first talk of the conference.
Right.
Now let's talk about the day 2 keynote, or unpacking tech, where we don't have as much, where we have just a few bits. Like you will have, if you have a Windows PC with the Copilot badge, so one of those Snapdragon laptops or something like that, you have local models on it. You're gonna have more and better local models. So, which is actually really good because, local is good. That means it all happens on your device, not on a server, on your device. That's what I like to hear. And as I said, MIT open sourced GitHub Copilot. And now we're gonna go to my favorite session of any Microsoft build. It's Azure Innovations with Mark Russinovich. So Mark Russinovich is CTO and CISO of Microsoft Azure. So Chief Technical Officer and Deputy CISO, Deputy Chief Information Security Officer. He's also a technical fellow, so yeah. And the first thing I noted was they are developing Linux Guard, a security solution which is slowly being upstreamed so that any distro can use it, not just them. And what is Linux Guard? So, you have SE Linux, right? And you're angry at it. But that only
I'm not
allows...
angry at it. I actually love it.
Well, I am. Because it makes me mad because it doesn't allow me to run things when I want to run things. And it's annoying. And then I do permissive mode and go on with my life.
And then you reboot your system and then you're just pissed off again.
Yes.
Yep.
One of the things that SE Linux does is basically says you can run this binary, you can't run this binary. But it is very manual in its approach. It only does what you say it can do. Well, Linux Guard and many of its components allow you to do things like code integrity checking. So that's one of the things Linux is currently lacking. It's basically, it allows you to do things like code signing and then checking based on that code sign what is actually happening. The big problem with SE Linux, which can do small part of that, is the fact that it can only do that in its main namespace. What happens in containers has to be done separately, and it's annoying as hell. Well, Linux Guard takes care of that. Basically goes and does it wherever you run things, even if it's in a container. And among things, it uses SE Linux, DM Verity, which is essentially a code signing solution already existing in Linux. The problem was it didn't have the other part, the actual policy enforcement, which is something they created. The IPE, or Integrity Policy Enforcement, which enforces on your host system and even inside containers. Something current solutions cannot really do. Some of these things, as I said, were already available, and some of the things that are being built are being upstreamed for any distro to use. And we're gonna see these things come around probably in coming coming months and years when they are ready to be used. Now, one of the things I learned is that Microsoft actually uses when it comes to Azure, everything is a VM. VM is a security boundary for them, which to me was actually interesting, because I thought like certain things they probably run on a host server, but no, apparently everything is a VM. Everything is a Hyper-V VM. So all of their servers run as a host operating system Windows, apparently, which I already knew. Just Linux people didn't know that and thought that, of course, it has to be running. Its cloud has to be running Linux. So
No, it just turns out that it's Microsoft Hyper-V running Linux clients.
Yes,
like their Azure
and a whole
OS.
load of them. They
Yeah.
actually have for Azure they have a special version of Windows Server that is custom built just for Azure. There are articles about it. It's really interesting stuff, especially in their operating systems. But since everything has to be a Hyper-V VM, if they are running things like full fat VMs, okay, that's easy. If they're running containers, they have a utility VM system. It's smaller VM that only does basic, Linux kernel and containers. But what if they're running, let's say next to their reverse proxy and CDN called front door? What if they want to run, let's say, a small piece of code in line with that? What would you think they would use? We actually talked about it in past.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name.
Hyperlight, micro VM.
Yes.
So essentially,
Yes.
it's literally just enough of a VM to be to work.
Yep.
And now it supports KVM. It used to only support Hyper-V. It was open sourced, but now it also supports KVM. And more importantly, it's not Microsoft anymore. Now it's CNCF, which means it's Linux Foundation.
Yeah, so just quick summary. CNCF is a foundation. It's called the Cloud Native Computing Foundation.
Yes.
They are a branch arm of the Linux Foundation, which is just a quick corporate breakdown. The Linux Foundation doesn't really directly manage a lot of things that are not Linux.
Yeah.
What they do, like the mother-son relationship. They basically just play mom to all these other corporations that they're the umbrella over.
They have a bunch of other sub-foundations, essentially. There are some projects nowadays that are under the actual Linux Foundation, but not that many. Most of them are under one of their specialized sub-foundations, essentially.
Yep.
And so that basically now means you can run a Hyperlight VM on Linux, which is actually like logical since now it's in CNCF. CNCF will want to run that it runs with Linux because, well, CNCF mostly cares about Linux because that's where most of its stuff runs. Kubernetes, which is the main part of CNCF. Well, under the CTO of Microsoft Azure, there is a Azure Incubations and Innovations group. Essentially, bunch of people who create loads of experiments, and it's also a lot of cool tech. A bunch of it then gets passed on to CNCF or Linux Foundation.
Yeah, so they make the thing that it's cool and it should stick around. Just pass it off to this other group.
Yeah, like it's like random, many times like random things. So first one that I remember that group made that I took note was KEDA, Kubernetes Event Driven Autoscaling. A lot of you will ask what that is because it's an infrastructure piece. So
Yeah,
Have
that's
you
like that serverless thing, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is. Have you ever had, let's say, a program that constantly runs and does this task like based on a timer or something you may call a cron job? Well, this basically has a main unit that runs this checker, whether it be of any kind of event, including HTTP hit or like uh, things wound up in a queue or a directory in a file system changed or something. Josh, I think you fall
Yep.
asleep.
Nah, I'm just tired.
And now when this happened, it spins up another container in which only the code you need to run is, and it executes that, and then it stops. It's really good solution to take the thing that's called cron job or many such event-driven computational tasks, and it sandboxes them and just run them on whatever event necessary.
Which, that I don't know if that's necessarily like a budget saving thing, but it probably started out as like, a cost savings measure. Because it makes no sense to. So let's just say that like you have a backup task, right? And you have this backup task that's automated to run on like one system. Well, does it make sense to have that system running 24/7 if it's only going to operate for maybe an hour at a time? A popular thing that you see in like the home lab space is they'll have like the backup archive box that just it sits in a system sleep state all the time, and then it wakes up and runs its backup job, and then just goes right back to sleep. This is basically just like a dedicated version of that, but like on a scalable box.
Yeah, it's I think the point of it was to like literally build like an infinite scalable for any kind of event. For example, I use it. I have a very very complex and very 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 amazing filter for email. My mail provider has basically useless email filtering. I can't do shit with it.
Yep.
So I took IMAP protocol and in Python wrote a filter. And over time it became very complex. I wanted to make it scalable and all that, but it only can do X number of connections from single IP. So what I did, I bought myself servers or rented them in multiple locations or behind multiple IPs. And each one of those runs a single Kubernetes node, worker node. And then Keda, all it does, it takes, okay, I got 100 events of this type. Just spread them on these servers. And just spreads them equally on servers so they can run with whatever kind of limitations, but they run on multiple servers. Whether I have 5 events or 1,000 events. They are nicely spread across those 3 IPs. That kind of thing, it's like, this is useful for. Well, beyond that, they made something called Copacetic, which is some container tool. You can take an image, pull a layer out and put another layer in. I never use it. I heard of it. I never used it. It's beyond me, despite me being a container guy. Then they made a couple of other things. All of them are either in process or already donated to the community, like Dapper, Project Radius, Project Drassi. Don't ask me what they do because I have no idea.
They do stuff.
Yeah, they do stuff. Also, at the end, Mark Rusinovich always shows some far-off future thing. And this time he showed a video of a optic computer.
So this
using
is a computer
light.
with.
Light.
So this is a computer that has no copper traces. It's all fiber optics.
No, it's all all free light.
Oh,
No,
okay.
as far as I understood, it's all free light, like literally just lasers shooting. No, not even fibers.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how this works, but apparently it works. And quite a bit of the talk was about confidential computing. So that is basically so you can run VMs, containers inside trusted enclaves or protected by trusted enclaves on your CPUs. It's useful for multi-company scenarios, and of course, if you are hosting on cloud and stuff like that, and you're worried that somebody could look into your VM, whether it be like somebody that's in the data center, they can protect them using these CPU-based trusted enclaves, so that they are essentially encrypted even to the computer itself. Really interesting, I guess. Never. I don't know why somebody would use it, but apparently you can. And of course, because well, he has access to all sorts of computers and VMs in Azure. Apparently, Microsoft Azure contains at least one server with 1700 cores.
That's a big CPU die.
It's not a single CPU. I believe it was 12 sockets.
Well, hey, there are companies out there where it's just like if you're willing to pay enough money, they will make it for you. So
Yeah.
that's probably how they got the system.
Yeah.
And I bet you that is a system with a single purpose.
Well, probably for something like some big customer require such a big machine. It also has 32 terabytes of RAM.
Or, maybe it's the machine that just runs Copilot.
Yeah, that will probably be more GPUs than CPUs, but yeah. They also have been making their own CPUs, or they've been designing their own CPUs, and somebody like TSMC was making them, of course. But yeah, they have their own Azure Cobalt 100. Apparently, the best CPU for price to performance in cloud. Actually, I use Azure 100 VMs, so Azure Cobalt 100 VMs, so it is pretty cheap, I have to say.
Well, probably most of the reason why it's cheap is because they're not paying any royalties on it.
They probably are to
Well,
ARM. It's an ARM CPU.
maybe the ARM licensing, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's apparently they're using it for their own stuff, and they have VMs you can buy, which apparently I did. Apparently, it's pretty cheap. Definitely a lot cheaper than Intel or AMD VMs. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Well, a final note I have here. This is one that I have no idea what's happening, but I'm happy that it's happening. Is something called Microsoft Discovery. And as I've written in the notes, some science thing using AI. Don't ask me, I don't get it. I think they're trying to discover new things with AI. Apparently they use this to discover new immersion cooling coolant that doesn't use forever chemicals, which is good, I guess. Actually, this is really good, and the kind of usage I want AI community to focus on, besides accessibility. And that's actually what I really do think about. Like, that's what AI should be used for, research, because it is far better at it than humans are, because it can do many calculations per second. It can test theories in a virtual environment, like what you would do on paper, it can do using a CPU. Like, that's what we want, and it can do hundreds of theories at once, show you what are the most promising ones. Then you can go into a lab and test them. My guess is they're trying to get to that scenario, which actually
Probably.
I'm very supportive of. Go do it. Go do it more. Of course, the second one is accessibility, which also apparently they do some of it. Now, I also one of the things I forgot to put in notes, so I just remembered. Apparently, they made bunch of AI agents. As I explained, agents are essentially AIs that let you that do stuff for you. One of them apparently writes code for you so well, all you have to do is assign it in GitHub and it does things. So essentially, now you have a agent coworker. One day when I have enough of it, I'm gonna make my own AI agent. Then the world will surely fall apart.
Well, then we can just do an episode about it, and then eventually, you know, maybe publicly host it for other people to toy around with for about an hour, and then
Yes.
find out just how much that bill's going to cost, and then get rid of it.
Yeah, something like that. Well, and because we did mention Google I/O, I did read that that they announced an XR glasses, which is essentially, as far as I understand, augmented reality glasses, sort of. Apparently, they have a camera and something like that.
Yeah. So, this sounds great and all, but the one thing that I've seen here is, their talk is that they mentioned Azure-based supercomputers. Now, obviously...
Now we're back at Microsoft stuff, so back to Microsoft.
Oh, okay.
What we can talk about later. And another thing Google I/O was shown was apparently new CSS primitives for carousels. So, you know, you have pictures and you can click right arrow and the next picture spins like it's on a wheel. That apparently now has CSS primitives because it's been a pain in the ass to write with JavaScript up until now. Apparently.
Hey,
again,
if they're putting it in CSS, that means that it's in the HTML standard. So
yes. Good.
We could put that in. That's good, and that's like another CSS animation we can put in a static website.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's all for Google. No, back to Microsoft and what Josh mentioned. Yes. Apparently, you can actually buy enough machines on Azure to make a supercomputer out of them, and you can tell them that you want to build a supercomputer in their cloud, and that they actually have customers who do that. If I remember correctly, there are actually Azure-based supercomputers in top 500 supercomputer list, which is just insane to me. And I think for all of you who are listeners, me and Josh are doing exactly the same thing, checking if that is true.
Yep. We're googling. Let's see here.
That's
so
the podcast. So November 2024.
F for Azure.
And
Yes, number 4. Microsoft is Microsoft's Eagle server.
Yeah,
Which is
hosted in Azure.
built
yes.
for Microsoft. Yep. Which is for Azure.
Yes.
That is the only one on the top 10 that this article is listing.
Yeah, I think there are more, but yeah. Apparently you can do that now, which is actually cool. Josh.
Right.
Josh.
Yeah.
Do you think you can spare enough money for me to buy myself a supercomputer?
No, not really.
Well, if someone in the viewer section would like for me to have a supercomputer, let me know, and let our Patreon know by writing patreon.com/no-tax-allowed. I think you can put whatever amount you want in there as well. I think we enabled that.
Well, you can totally do that. But honestly, if you're paying us to run a supercomputer, you're probably buying the supercomputer for yourself and then just giving us access to it for a couple of hours.
That would work as well. Yes. I would probably spend that money on so many servers for CDN and move everything to that CDN. Then
we would just move the podcast to that.
Yes.
That way we can have guaranteed scalability rather than theoretical
potential
scalability.
scalability.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, now that we're talking about the top 500 list, I think somewhere in 200 range there is a Slovenian supercomputer as well. Or I could be wrong. It's been a
could be.
while since I've last checked because, well, it's Slovenia. Ooh, I was not wrong. It's 264th Vega HPC CPU. It's in Maribor, so I can't even see it, or really walk near the building. Would have to do a lot of travel for that.
Well, we know one place that we're going to be trying to go to. Well, I don't know if we'll actually be able to go to.
If you are a listener, you can send us an email to contact@taxbase.com, and if you work for Izum, which is a Slovenian supercomputing thing, please write. I would love to see it.
Yeah, and of course, if you have comments as a viewer, you can also just send us email as well. It's not just for corporate things. It's basically just like a general catch-all. Like we've even got guys like sending us emails offering to like be co-host for like when one of us is absent. Which that's pretty cool. We might take you up on those offers eventually. But hey, I do think that we are going a little bit long, Bigpod. So let's just go ahead and do the wrap up. Yeah.
So we already mentioned Patreon, we mentioned our emails. So down there also our social media. So federated social media like Mastodon. Check us out there when we're active, which for me is never. Then you can check out our YouTube channels where posts are never, but we have some old videos.
Of course. Because,
And
we put all our creative effort into this podcast. We don't have time for our own content.
And if you want
and of course,
us to make more, subscribe in droves. Also get your friends to subscribe to all three channels, including the podcast, and we're gonna make more content. I think it's that easy. At least I think it's that easy. I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask Josh.
It's definitely an incentivizer. That said, of course, if you guys want to talk to each other, we do have a Discord that's also linked in the description. I'm not going to mention it on the show on the show, so I'm sorry. You have to do a little bit of manual work because I'm not willing to give Discord money. So, anyways, Bigpod, I think that's a bit of a wrap there.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to keep like a relatively
under an hour.
Just under an hour if we can. So I think that's a complete episode. I've got a Miss Kitty right here next to me saying that she wants my love and attention. So I think I'm gonna take some time and pet the cat, and I'll talk with you next week.
Goodbye.